And that's a great segue to kind of what I'm also curious about. You guys were obviously working full-time jobs and have this breadth of experience. Like, when was the moment of like, okay, we're gonna quit and go do this full time?
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting question, and it kind of goes back to something that we have recently learned how to like put into words, which is I think some co-founding teams find an idea and then they find each other to work on that idea. Our story is the opposite, which is like since we graduated from college a decade ago, we have been clear about starting a business together.
Oh wow.
So it started really from me and Arian, and the idea that this is probably the fifth idea that we've like played around with starting from 2011. Like we've explored so many different things that we've been excited about. So our story of how we came to Riya Collective is a little bit different, probably from the classic, like, oh, we were just kind of found a pain point and started it. It's like we were actively looking for a long time for like, what's the right business for us to do together. And that's been our dream like for such a long time. So I think for us, it's interesting because all of the other ideas we had done were more in our wheelhouse. They were like really technology ideas, nothing to do with e-commerce, which neither of us have worked in before. So this idea, that's where I say this one was so funny, because when we look back at it, we were in this series of like testing different ideas for the past decade. But this idea really was the first one that we were building for solving for ourselves. I don't even know, and we go back and forth on this, but I don't even know if we thought this was a real idea we were working on, or if we were, I don't think we did. Arian's shaking her head. I don't think we were like, as we experiment with other real ideas to turn into a business, this one's just something we really wish existed. So we should just do it, you know?
Absolutely.
And so this one was very much like, so we lived in the same building in units like on top of each other. And so and if that hadn't been the case, I don't think we could have started Ria, because we effectively used our own clothes and stuffed them in like our own closet, got clothes from friends. And we had people come in like on the weekday evenings or weekends to like try clothes on. And, and basically if someone was coming, we would like text each other and be like, all right, whose apartment should they go to? And then like ask them to buzz that number, and then they would go up there and like try on the clothes. Sometimes both of us would be there, sometimes one's working out so the other one would take it. This was very much, we're like, this just has to exist. Like it's so obvious. It's like a $20 bill in the middle of the road. Like someone just has to pick it up, and do it. And it was only after Arian's mentioned a few times how we pride ourselves on being really customer centric. It was only after, like, because these were literally happening in our living room, we met like hundreds of women through this, and they started telling each other about it, like word of mouth. And then on the weekends, we'd have like back to back appointments on Saturdays and Sundays. So we met every single customer for an hour each and talked to them while they're changing and all that stuff about like their problems, like why they like this clothing, all that stuff. We got to really understand the customer so deeply. And I think that's the point at which we were like, wait, there's like really something here, maybe more than any other business we've tried to start. Because with previous businesses, it had always been like, we have a great idea and then we put it out there, and then you're like, people kind of want it. But with this one, it was the opposite, where it's like people really want it. It's almost like we don't even have the idea fully formed yet, but people are like, banging down the door to get to our product. And we're like, okay, we've never really felt that yet. And now we understand what it means to kind of almost be in that like product market fit, where it just feels like this wheel is turning. And then at that point, we had so many logical reasons not to do this. We're like, we don't have capital. We're kind of in our early 30s. We're going to start families. Like all these life reasons, like maybe we want to move out of the Bay Area, like so many things. We've never worked in e-commerce. We're not fashion people. Reasons that came to mind that we're like, we shouldn't do this. But what trumped everything was we were just like, we've obviously created something that has so much demand behind it that if we follow just kind of a gut feeling that we need to follow this and see where it goes. And then we kind of gave ourselves like a year where we're like, let's work on this and put everything into it and not question it for a year. Like quit our jobs and be 100 all in. And once we did that, I feel like there was no like turning back at that point, because the business continued to do well. And we also became like more and more passionate about the problem.
Yeah. A couple things I wanted to add is there are two moments when we were working full-time jobs that I will never forget. One is the first time we got an order on our Shopify store from some complete stranger in Texas that ordered one of the like 5 dresses we had on our website. And we looked at each other first of all, it was like a Saturday morning, and we were like, and she needed it for the following weekend. We looked at each other and we were like, do you know her? Or because I don't know her. And we didn't believe that a stranger, not even in our network, would have heard about us, let alone actually trusted us enough to order a dress. And there were many weeks where we were just, I remember taking like bags to work with clothes in them that I needed to take to FedEx and then ship to customers all across the country because we were getting orders. And then another moment where, like Sarina said, I think it was the end of 2018 when we were going down this path of like, okay, what do we need to do? Because it's actually not fun anymore. We are working full-time jobs and we're waking up on Saturday morning and we're helping 5 strangers in our living room for 3 hours, trying on these dresses, checking them out, and then figuring out how to return it, have them return it. And we're like, we need to make a decision. And we had these, again, like complete strangers in our living room who were going to India, and it was their first trip to India. Oh, wow. And they were going, and they needed 3 outfits each. And they tried them on, and within an hour, they had spent $1,000 with us, and they were so happy. And they came back from their India trip, and they returned the outfits, and they were so grateful. Like, I've never seen 2 people so happy that they showed us all the pictures and everything. And I just remember feeling like, okay, we could give this a real shot. There's something here. And those 2 moments, I think I'll never forget from the early days of Riya, when, it was just like a small idea that hadn't really gotten its full shot yet.